What's the good word, y'all? It's your boy DKB here. So I came across two exciting trade rumors that I think would both work pretty favorably for the New York Jets, all things considered. Now, these are involving two of our more recent free agent acquisitions, wide receiver Mecole Hardman, running back Dalvin Cook. Now, the second name, the latter, Dalvin Cook, got me the most excited because I think, as any of us could agree, any way we could feasibly get Dalvin Cook off of this roster would be a huge bonus for the New York Jets. We envisioned the best 1-2 punch in the NFL, and it's only been a one-punch type running back room. It's been Breece Hall and everybody else, and literally everybody else has been more productive than Dalvin Cook when given the chance. I mean, we put a lot of hyperboles out there when we get frustrated by some of these terrible performances. But at this rate, averaging, 2.5 yards per carry, any one of us out on the street, whether we die on that first hit or not, can go out there and outpace Dalvin Cook. So, it's kind of hard to see him fall from grace. We hyped up the stats about the 1,100 plus yard seasons. Anybody that was paying attention to an efficiency standpoint knows that he's been trending downward for quite some time. But nobody could have predicted this. I mean, I've said this a few times already. He's looked worse than James Robinson. So outside of the fact that he doesn't pass block well, now he's not even running well, which is his main, it's the main reason you sign a running back. And he doesn't offer a ton in the receiving game. It's almost like, having a player that's playing out of position, which is unfortunate. So looking at Dalvin Cook, the rumor out there is that he could be traded to the Ravens in a situation, right? This came from ESPN's Bill Barnwell. Basically, the trade details would be that the Ravens would give us a 2025 fifth-round pick. We would send Dalvin Cook and a 2025 fourth-round pick over there. So here's the justification from his end. Barnwell said the Ravens will be buying some additional draft capital and adding a veteran back as a flyer to help plug another hole caused by injuries. J.K. Dobbins is out for the year with his Achilles. Justice Hill has been battling a turf toe injury. General Manager Eric DeCosta has turned to veterans Kenyon Drake and Melvin Gordon III with limited results, but Cook was a more productive back as recently as last season. Adding Cook into the mix will land Baltimore some upside and limited downside. Given the guaranteed victory in terms of draft capital, New York would actually be giving up extra draft capital to get Cook out the door for a swap of selections in the 2025 draft. It's better to give his carries to Hall and Israel Abanikanda and roll the $3.5 million over to 2024. So what he means, in the later stages of that is that there's going to be a cap hit for the Jets, right? I'm not sure what the specific numbers are. 3.4 million sounds high when I think if we cut him, we only lose $1 million and some change or something like that. But regardless of that whole situation, I know there will be a $3.9 million cap hit that the Ravens will have to figure out and work out a contract restructure for. But as mentioned, the Ravens is a team that's always been built around their ground game, right? You have J.K. Dobbins, their most elite running back. He's out for the season, as mentioned. And then you're sitting there looking at Justice Hill. He's battling an injury, and then you have Melvin Gordon and Kenyon Drake, who are the two veterans behind him, but it's not like they've offered any performances so far that would let you know that they're a perfect replacement or a suitable replacement within this system, especially looking at Melvin Gordon, who's gotten a lot of flack for just kind of getting, chasing down the bag and trying to do the minimum amount of work possible. So it does make sense, again, statistically, if you're looking at Dalvin Cook, it looks like a huge requirement for any team. But maybe, and, I've said this about a few players, he looks uninspired when he's playing, unmotivated. And so maybe a change of scenery will help him out, being paired with an MVP quarterback in Lamar Jackson. And then, of course, I think they were the first team in history or something like that with essentially a full roster of number one or former number one wide receiver picks in their room. So there's a lot to love over there, especially being paired up with the defense and stuff. So For me, I would trade him if it meant I had to bang my toe on the corner of my bed, every day for a week. This is a guy that isn't suiting the New York Jets well whatsoever. And trying to hold on to him, this isn't a Zach Wilson type situation where you can say there's the upside in all of these things. You're talking about an aging guy. There was always going to be a limited window, which is why he only got a 1-year deal, for to come in, be productive, help tip us over the top to achieve a Super Bowl ring. And the entire narrative changed after the Aaron Rodgers injury. So if this is the way that he goes, I'm perfectly fine with that, even if, as they mentioned, we're essentially paying somebody to leave. We've seen worse contracts. I want to say the Charger. Where did J.C. Jackson get traded from or signed from? I don't know. I think he's with the Chargers right now, but I think his previous team is still on a hook for like $12 million or something crazy like that, and dead cap money they're paying out. Either way, let's change gears here. Let's go into Mecole Hardman. Now, this one was interesting to me because this trade rumors surrounding him going back to the Chiefs, a team that just let him go. But I think, as always, the narrative has changed for the Chiefs as well. When you look at the current landscape for Chiefs wide receivers, things don't look great whatsoever. Even with the magic that is Patrick Mahomes, the team has kind of let him down, right? You figured Sky Moore, their previous, I think he was picked in the second, third round, something like that, day 2 pick. Sky Moore was supposed to be the guy that's leading the way for this team, right? They talked about him prior to week 1 as being an every down wide receiver. It seemed like he adjusted well. He made some huge plays down the stretch for them last year, and that hasn't translated. Kadarius Toney, the speed threat, he was supposed to be a big play option for him, hasn't panned out that way. The hands are still as buttery as ever, and so you're talking about the rookie Rashee Rice being their leading receiver in a part-time role, and that's for I want to say it was 5 out of the 6 weeks that they played in so far, which is terrible. It's great for Rashee Rice, but it's terrible otherwise. It's not like he set the world on fire. I think he has 256 receiving yards, something like that. So that lets you know how much of dire straits they're in, which is why big ups to Travis Kelce. He's on my fantasy squad. He's been killing it for me all season so far. I'm pretty sure he's probably averaging around 10 targets a game or something like that. But they could use another weapon, which is basically the ideal behind getting him back over there would be. So, when you think about Mecole Hardman's time with the Jets, he's spoken well publicly recently about the lack of game action that he's gotten, but I want to say we heard his comments prior to what we heard from Robert Saleh, which was basically an indictment on his tenure here. In not so many words, they mentioned that he's been outplayed and outperformed by undrafted free agent receiver Xavier Gipson for us. There should have been a few different roles Hardman could have had for us at minimum. Special teams ace, as a plus returner, a gadget guy, much like he would have been used in Kansas City, or he could have been our starting slot wide receiver, or at least the primary backup, depending on how things panned out between Randall Cobb coming over, right? None of those things happened. He's seen a minimal amount of snaps. He's had little to no impact on this New York Jets offense whatsoever, and he hasn't really had the opportunities like we've seen from so many other weapons within these New York Jets offenses over the past for guys that we thought had promise. He brings a huge speed element, which you think you would find some way to try to utilize, and that just hasn't been the case. So the trade scenario here is that the Chiefs would give us a 2024 sixth, and then of course we would send them Mecole Hardman, and we would send them a 2024 seventh. So essentially the same situation as with Dalvin Cook, some late round pick exchanges. This time we're not necessarily giving up more than we would like to just to get him off the roster. This would be more so of a common move that we've seen from Joe Douglas in the past, which again, he loves acquiring those day 3 picks, and whether he packages those up to try to move up a bit, or he uses those to flip for a high upside guy that he thinks the New York Jets may be able to turn around. Nonetheless, those tend to work out pretty well for him, all things accounted for. So, there is some upside to him going back. the Chiefs, they're going to be having some concerns about depth. They lost Justin Watson for a little bit. I think he has some kind of elbow injury. Kadarius Toney has essentially taken Mecole Hardman's old role. So either you become a primary backup to him, or that opens up an actual opportunity for him to show that he's more of a receiver than maybe the Chiefs gave him a shot at before. It at least gives them another, you can play the hot hand there in that gadget role. But he ideally comes in as probably their most productive receiver. And then, not from a statistical standpoint right now, but just what we've seen from them in the past and where we see their options, their receivers struggling right now, he would probably jump in and essentially be their number one wide receiver immediately. And then, of course, you have that system familiarity and chemistry, which you can't beat right away. And again, at least for that offense and how they operate with Andy Reid over there, the more weapons, the better. They haven't been able to figure it all out. Maybe a familiar face can help them unlock something in the offense. So those are kind of my thoughts around this whole situation. I wouldn't make both of these moves, to be honest. Again, sucks to kind of have to pay to let Dalvin Cook go, but I would do much worse things to get him out of a Jets uniform. So it's interesting and a bit sad that we're seeing two, I use weapons for the term Dalvin Cook loosely, but two weapons that had a lot of promise going into the season that haven't panned out whatsoever. But Joe Douglas has made a habit of being able to flip draft picks for guys that are underperforming woefully. So at least we're not losing them for nothing in an ideal world if this happens. But let me know what your guys' thoughts are on both of these trades, and I'll catch you again. Peace.